There's a lot of discussion on what living in the end really means, right? Is it acting as if, feeling it real, pretending you have something, knowing you have something? I think a lot of the confusion comes from people thinking that living in the end means you have to be constantly visualizing some sort of future scenario or living in some imaginary worlds every single moment. The way I think about living in the end has really evolved, but now it really boils down to two things. So, first, you live in the end by being the version of you who already has it, not just in your mind, but also how you show up in the world. And this is the part where you probably heard a lot of people talk about already. But the second part, and which I think is actually equally important, is you live in the end by living in the present moment. So, I talk a lot about the present moment on this channel, so I would get comments like this. And I completely understand where the confusion comes from because it sounds really contradictory, right? I see a lot of people say that in order to live in the end, you have to ignore what's in front of you. But I really do believe that you're going to find that's a very unhealthy and maybe unsustainable way to live your life. So in this video, I'm going to explain why living in the end is just living in the present. And by the end of this video, hopefully you'll come to that conclusion by yourself. So we obviously can't talk about living in the end or the wish fulfilled without referencing Neville. So I'm gonna just reference a very simple Neville quote for the purposes of this video. I can't remember what book this is from, but he says, "You must assume the state of the wish fulfilled until your assumption has all the sensory vividness of reality." Okay? That's the imagining work. And there's a million videos out there talking about how to visualize, how to do SATs, how to use your senses. The reason I don't talk about this, like the techniques, is because I think people often get caught up on it. I personally don't think there's like the best technique, the best routine. Frankly, there's no such thing as right or wrong. And that's why I don't really go into it in my videos. And if you're in the camp that's like, this is all very woo-woo, right? Visualization itself is actually something that is very well documented and well researched, and a lot of, athletes, actors, even surgeons have used it in their work to become better at their professions. So it is something that's very based on neuroscience. But as much as we love to do this visualization work, right, we still have to live our lives at the end of the day. That leads me to the first point, which was you live in the end by being the version of you who already has it. So let's say you're someone who's working your 9 to 5 job and you want to start a business on the side to boost your income, right? To diversify your income streams. Living in the end is not just affirming and visualizing, I have a successful business. And I know it sounds very simplistic, but I have to say it because I feel like some people in the LOA community do frame it this way. Like you just have to say some affirmations and then things will come up. This is what you should be doing instead. You make a list of all the traits, qualities, behaviors, actions this new version of you would take. And you do that gap analysis and you say, okay, these are the parts where I'm actually there, and those are the parts where I still have a long ways to go, and these are the changes that I'm going to make to become that new version of me, to act as that new version of me. And a lot of people will ask, how would it feel to be successful? How would it feel to be your own boss, right? And that's great, but that's not enough. Because you have to be thinking about how would it feel to be running a business? How would you be reacting when you are faced with challenges in running a business? I promise you, someone who's actually run a business, 90% of the time, they're not feeling on top of the world. What they may be feeling is confident that they can tackle whatever comes at them, right? Whatever challenges they may face. They might feel emotionally resilient, right? That's another trait. When you're just thinking, okay, how does it feel to be successful? When you actually start to face challenges, you might become mentally and emotionally fragile instead. And so that's why I think it's important to really think comprehensively and holistically about what does it mean to truly be the new version of you, and consequently live in the end in that version of you. The second point, I know this sounds very contradictory, but here's my attempt at explaining why the more you're able to live fully in the present moment, the more you're able to live in the end. If you are truly living in the end, then you are assuming that you're on the way to getting there, right? Wherever there is. Then that means anything that's happening now must be a part of getting you there. If the present moment is part of that path, then there's no reason to resist it. You would stop seeing the present moment as a threat, because oftentimes we do that. You would stop seeing it as something wrong or something to escape. If you believe that the world is a mirror, right, the more you're trying to fix what's in front of you, the more you're saying, I live in a reality that needs to be fixed. The more you keep looking for things to be fixed, the more things that need to be fixed will keep showing up. It's like you're telling yourself, no, this can't be it. This is wrong. Which is another way of saying, I'm not living in my end. But the more you stop trying to fix whatever is in front of you, the present moment, the more you're actually living in the end. I am aligned. I don't desperately need to change what is in front of me in order for me to feel okay. I can allow myself to be in the present moment and, dare I say, maybe even accept it. And that inner stability is what creates the outer confirmation. That is alignment. And to clarify, I'm not saying that you should be complacent. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that the change that you're looking for is an inner change. It's changing who you are and who you're being, not changing whatever is out there in order for you to feel okay in here. The more you try to fight what's out there in the mirror, the more it's going to persist. And if you're still like, what the fuck is she talking about? I'm going to give you a very basic example. Let's say you're waiting very anxiously for a very important phone call. Okay, it's something you've been waiting for a very long time, and you just need to hear the answer. What usually happens? You're holding your breath, literally and figuratively. You probably can't focus on anything in your life right now. Like someone's trying to have a conversation with you, but you're not really listening. You might be trying to read a book, but you're not absorbing anything in the book. You're not able to be present because your mind is somewhere else, which is completely normal because we're humans. But the moment that phone call comes in, like the literal moment, what happens? It's like you can finally breathe again. It's like suddenly a filter comes off and life becomes great again. Whatever book you're reading becomes more engaging. The conversation you're having, you're no longer on edge and distracted. Like maybe even doing laundry and doing dishes and taking out the trash seems like an interesting thing to do. So, living in the end is just being able to be present in your life with whatever you're doing. Like go walk your dog, go do the dishes, go do whatever you have to. Start that creative project that you've been wanting to do, because that's what you would be doing if you had it. You wouldn't be thinking about it, you would just be living your life. Everything would feel neutral. It's like you stop holding your breath and you give a sigh of relief. I can already hear people in the comments section going like, that's not what Neville said. Let me share with you something Neville said on the feeling of relief. So he said, of all the pleasures of the world, relief is the most keenly felt. When someone you dearly love is late, you anxiously await that key in the door, and when you hear their voice, your relief is keenly felt. That is the same kind of relief you will have when you have imagined correctly. And this is the important part. You may imagine over and over again, but you are only going to impregnate once. And if you reach the point of relief, your bread has been cast upon the water. I can't think of a better way to synthesize what I just said than this quote. If you're still not convinced that living in the end is just living in the present, don't worry, because I'm going to send you somewhere else. So about a few months ago, I came across this video that was basically talking about how being present in your life, aka just meditation, is really the only thing you need to do to bring about your desires. And the creator explains it in a quantum sense, in a quantum physics way, which kind of went over my head. Like, I don't really understand that stuff, but I was like, wow, like this is the same conclusion that I'd come to, but just in a different way. I think the creator's name is Sam, and her channel is called The Soul's Playground. I don't follow a lot of LOA creators anymore because various reasons, but she is really someone that I think knows what she's talking about, and she talks about everything in a very authentic and very different way. You're never going to hear the way that she talks about things on other channels, I swear. But I'm gonna link her video in the description and you should go check her out.